Most people who carry credit card debt know the interest rate. They can tell you it's 22%, maybe 27%. They know mathematically that this is expensive, and yet the debt stays. Meanwhile, the investment account sits empty or never gets opened at all. That is not ignorance. Something else is happening. The standard explanation goes like this. People are bad with money because they don't understand compound interest. They live in the present. They prioritize immediate comfort over long-term gain. The solution, according to this view, is financial literacy. Teach people how interest works, show them the graphs, and behavior will follow understanding. There's a version of this that's true. Plenty of research confirms that people systematically prefer smaller rewards sooner over larger rewards later. Give someone a choice between $10 today and $15 next week, and a surprising number take the 10. Economists call this temporal discounting. The future is discounted, mathematically, in how we value it. The further away a reward is, the less motivating it feels, and on the surface this explains a lot. Debt feels manageable now. Investing feels like sacrifice now, for a payoff that's 20 years away and somehow doesn't feel entirely real. If you discount the future steeply enough, minimum payments win every time. This framing has dominated personal finance advice for decades. Budget better, automate your savings, visualize your future self. All of it assumes the problem is that people haven't thought clearly enough about what they're giving up. But here's where it starts to get complicated. The evidence on temporal discounting is real. What's less certain is whether the standard story about why it happens and how to fix it is actually correct. Here's the part that usually gets left out. Temporal discounting research is mostly conducted using abstract monetary choice tasks, laboratory settings, hypothetical scenarios. Pick the smaller amount now or the larger amount later, clean and controlled. But the conditions under which real financial decisions happen are almost nothing like that. When someone is deciding whether to put money into a retirement account or use it to cover this month's shortfall, they are not calm. They may be stressed. They may be running on sleep deprivation. They may be experiencing something that researchers are only beginning to take seriously: the emotional texture of scarcity itself. Recent research published in 2025 looked directly at this. When people are in conditions of scarcity, not hypothetical scarcity, but the genuine feeling that resources are limited and uncertain, their temporal preferences shift. They become more present-focused, not because they're irrational, but because scarcity activates emotional systems that recalibrate how the future feels. The future starts to feel less stable, less reachable, less worth planning for. This is not poor discipline. It may be an adaptive response that made evolutionary sense. When resources are scarce and unpredictable, consuming now is genuinely the smarter strategy. The problem is that this ancient recalibration runs inside a modern financial system that punishes it severely. And there's a second layer. Debt doesn't just feel manageable. In certain psychological conditions, it can feel like a solution. You borrow, the immediate pressure drops, and the nervous system registers relief. That relief is real. It's a neurological event. The future consequence, the interest accumulating, the constraint tightening, arrives later, diffused across time, and the brain weights it accordingly. The mainstream framing treats this as a failure of reasoning. The more accurate framing may be that it's the predictable output of a system doing exactly what it was built to do, under conditions it wasn't designed for. Let's slow down on the neuroscience, because this is where the evidence gets specific. A 2020 study looked at how episodic memory, the brain's ability to vividly imagine and mentally simulate future events, relates to temporal discounting in older adults. The finding was notable. People with stronger episodic memory capacity discounted the future less steeply. They could simulate the future more concretely, and that simulation made future rewards feel more real, more worth waiting for. This MRI brain scan cross-section with hippocampal regions subtly highlighted. Cool clinical tones. This matters financially in a direct way. When the future feels abstract, when you genuinely cannot construct a vivid mental image of yourself, retired, comfortable, having benefited from 30 years of compound growth, that future is psychologically discounted. Not morally, not lazily, neurologically. The investment account doesn't just compete with today's bill. It competes with today's bill using a representation of the future that your brain may be generating poorly. Separate research on decision-making and impulsivity has identified consistent patterns in how the mesocortical limbic system, The brain's reward circuitry connects prefrontal control regions with deeper reward structures. When that connectivity is weaker or disrupted, present bias choices increase. A 2025 study found that impaired functional connectivity in this system was associated with more impulsive decision-making. The implication is that the capacity for delayed gratification is not simply a matter of character. It has a biological substrate. It varies across people and conditions. Now, what the evidence does not prove is equally important to name. None of this establishes that financial behavior is fixed. The research on scarcity and emotional states suggests these preferences are dynamic, not permanent. Conditions change, emotional states change, temporal preferences appear to shift with them. And none of this research was conducted specifically in the context of personal finance. The laboratory tasks involve modest sums and short delays. Whether those findings scale linearly to decisions about mortgages and retirement accounts, that translation requires caution, but one more layer deserves attention, and it comes from an unexpected direction. For hundreds of millions of people raised inside Christian cultural frameworks, the relationship to money was shaped early by something that wasn't financial at all. The teaching that wealth is spiritually dangerous, that serving money means betraying something more important, is not a conscious adult opinion for most people who carry it. It is a money script, absorbed in childhood, wearing the disguise of virtue. This is not a criticism of religious tradition. It's a psychological observation. When a belief system encodes accumulating wealth as morally suspect, the natural result is that avoiding investment can feel righteous. Debt, paradoxically, can feel humble. Struggling with money can feel spiritually safer than thriving financially. Researchers who study what they call money scripts, the unconscious beliefs about money formed in early life, have documented how these patterns persist across decades, shaping financial behavior in ways that have nothing to do with financial knowledge. The evidence, taken together, suggests that what looks like poor financial discipline is often the intersection of neurological architecture, emotional state, and cultural programming, operating simultaneously, largely below awareness. So what do you do with this? Not a list of tips, a reframe. If you have avoided investing while carrying debt, the question worth sitting with is not, why don't I have more discipline? That question assumes the problem is a character flaw. The evidence suggests it probably isn't. The more useful question might be, what does the future actually feel like to you right now? Not conceptually, but as a felt sense. Does it feel reachable? Does it feel like somewhere you'll actually arrive? Or does it feel like a story other people live? What's a thing de hokiu from you? A leave your dequishel yesu 5? Because if the future feels abstract or unstable, your brain is not going to weight it heavily. That's not a failure. That's the system working as designed, in conditions that punish the design. And if somewhere in your history, family, culture, religion, early financial trauma, you absorbed a belief that people like you don't build wealth, or that wanting to is somehow wrong, then no spreadsheet is going to override that. The belief runs deeper than the math. The reframe is this: the obstacle is probably not what you think it is. And that means the solution is probably not what you've been told it is either. Understanding the mechanism doesn't automatically change the behavior, but it does change the self-diagnosis. And a wrong diagnosis, treated aggressively, tends to make things worse. Here's the tension that doesn't resolve cleanly. The research on scarcity and temporal preference is compelling. The neurological evidence on reward circuitry and delay tolerance is real. The cultural money scripts are documentable. But there's a version of this framing that becomes its own trap, where every financial pattern gets explained, contextualized, and ultimately excused. Where understanding the mechanism becomes a reason not to move. Understanding the mechanism becomes a reason not to move. The honest answer is that the science does not tell us how much of financial behavior is genuinely constrained by neurology and circumstance, and how much remains within reach of deliberate change. That boundary is not clearly drawn. What seems true is that willpower-based interventions, applied to a problem that is partly neurological and partly cultural, have a poor record, and that the people who do change their financial trajectories often describe something that looks less like discipline and more like a shift in how the future feels to them. Why that shift happens, and how to invite it, that part remains genuinely open. The research behind this video draws from the European Journal of Health Economics, HPAC, Health Economics and Prevention and Care, Neuropsychologia, eNeuro, Journal of Risk and Uncertainty, Frontiers in Psychiatry, Neuroimage, Clinical. Every claim traces to a published source, Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind every week.